It's your half-assed reporter, James Kalm, and we are down at the bottom of the Lower East Side on Henry Street, 191. We're going to run in here to Shrine. And Scott Ogden, let me make a little sweep around the show. Now, does the show have a title?
Yes, the show's called Annex.
Okay, so the show is titled Annex. And as you were explaining, this is kind of an addition to the Souls Grown Deep show that's up at the Met, which is part of the Bill Arnett gift,
Yes.
or the Foundation's gift.
And that show is History Refused to Die.
Yes, some of the great African-American outsiders or vernacular artists, as they're calling them. Okay, so we made our little sweep over here. You know, we're going to start out looking at this piece.
Sure.
Let me get my little guide here.
Yeah. That is Mary T. Smith.
Mary T. Smith.
Lived in Hazelhurst, Mississippi. And I believe she passed away around 1995. That work is actually pretty unusual in the fact that she usually painted on found materials, wood, corrugated metal, tin.
So this is actually a nice piece of paper that she's got this on, and this is house paint and enamel on paper, 22 by 14 inches.
What I liked about it, though, as opposed to the metal pieces where the paint kind of settles and dries flat, this really, I guess the paper dries a little quicker so you can catch your brush strokes.
You get a little variegation there in the layering of the pigment. Also, I was noticing in her other paintings, she's got a lot of green, and I think it's actually kind of unique. A lot of people can't paint with green. How about this piece?
That is an early drawing by Ike Morgan.
Ike Morgan.
One of the actually only two living artists in the show. Lives in Austin, Texas. And that piece was made when he was still living in the Austin State Hospital. So it's probably dates around 84, 85.
Okay, the 1980s. This is pastel and graphite on heavy canvas paper.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I almost think it was a window shade because you can tell it's got some
texture in there.
Almost like a linen or...
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep moving down the line here.
That is J.D. Murray.
Watercolor, ink, crayon, and marker. Untitled, 1978 to 1988. Well, yeah, I look at work like this and I just think to myself that I could see someone painting this out in Bushwick. You know, some grad student from Yale or something, or because this is so contemporary and the palette is wonderful.
What's wild about it was J.D. Murray had a vision around 1978 where he was gardening out on his own property. He'd never really gone to school, learned to read or write, but he had a vision that the sun dropped from the sky into his yard, what I've heard. And from that moment on, he felt like it either irradiated him or shifted him so that he was drawing and writing with God's hand.
Okay.
So usually they have a lot of spiritual writing that's sort of abstract, and you can kind of see there's actually some hints of writing in the red. A lot of his pieces are entirely unintelligible text that he would sort of translate through a vial of holy water.
Okay. Let's move on down to these two.
Sure.
And these are both by Henry Speller?
That's Henry Speller, another Southern artist. And he's actually, from what I've heard, quite well known as a blues musician. And he and his wife both, later in their lives, came to art and started making drawings. And
this is marker, crayon, and graphite on paper, 24 by 18 inches.
I think that one is just graphite and color pencil.
This is titled Stepping Out. And this is another one by Ike. So you were saying that Ike is actually, Ike and this other lady, Minnie Evans, they're the two people that are not in the
they're not in Souls.
The collection, Souls Grown Deep collection.
Yeah, I'd actually spoken to Bill. He always wanted to go visit Ike. I guess he just never did. And then Minnie Evans was very early in her art making. I believe that piece is from the mid 1940s, maybe early 50s. So it's well before.
I have a question. Somebody like Minnie Evans, do we know whether she left a lot of this kind of work? Is this only a couple of dozen, or are there hundreds of these?
I assume there's hundreds. I believe what's cool is, I don't know if they're still up, but the Whitney they in their collection have her very first 2 drawings, one of which says like first one.
Wow.
It's just graphite on old paper, and
okay.
They're usually on view from the collection. That's another J.D. Murray.
Okay, I like this one.
It's quite...
Just because, I was looking at the brush strokes and thinking this is really incredibly facile.
Yeah.
And there's also a great quality about the color. Okay, this is untitled, portion on J.B. Murray's walls, circa 1970.
Early
and this is
70s, yeah.
24 by 24. Okay, and so we've got a little text written in there too.
The spirit writing on the back.
Always got stuff on the back. Okay. How about the sculpture?
That is
Bessie Harvey.
Bessie Harvey, yeah. I love
Untitled
her.
root sculpture with 4 faces.
I find that peak on the base so cool. Little Jackson Pollock.
Yeah. Okay, so this is 1983. Yeah, that's a nice piece. Also, I thought this was an interesting piece.
Mose
Tolliver.
Yeah.
John Starr, movie star man, 1986. House paint and enamel on found wood. Yeah, I'm always I'm wondering about, because I love the palette here, but I'm thinking, a lot of these people are probably, I don't know, maybe going down to the hardware store and buying these colors that somebody else returned, or they're, finding stuff that people are throwing out, and they're just sort of collecting this stuff and bringing it home, and then they're cracking open these cans of paint, and somehow they get this stuff to work, and
I think you're right.
yeah, it's amazing.
Those bargain bins, hardware store paint.
Well, okay, we're going to look at this trio of pieces by Joe Light, and he's kind of got his signature style with the white outlines. Okay, that's Adam and Eve, 16 by 23. And this is more house paint and enamel on found wood. And
That piece, those 3 pieces were most likely outdoors for quite some time in his front yard. That's just called squirrel.
well, we also just had Jerry Saltz and Roberta Smith came by, and they were admiring this work, and I think Roberta is a fan of Joe, and we were looking at this piece and wondering about whether or not this white line was the original color that they just painted it around, or whether that was actually drawn in. I guess it looks like it's drawn in.
I think it was drawn in, yeah.
Okay, and we got another head by Mose Tolliver. And again, they have the weirdest color things happening there.
One thing great about Mose, he didn't draw it out. It was just straight paintbrush to wood, which kind of, I think, makes sense with these fluid forms.
Well, there's also kind of a lot of courage involved in just going ahead and making the painting with the paintbrush. And I like this piece too. This is Mary T. Smith. You know, the way that she's divided the space up here, and she's using the black backgrounds to distinguish between the panels. In a certain way, this looks like a medieval triptych. And again, a lot of this has been outside. This looks like it might have been, you said she was hanging these on the side of her house? Mm-hmm. The little wire attachments?
Most of her work, yeah, was painted outdoors and existed.
This is more Mary's work. So this is from the 1980s. Yeah, if that was out in the weather, it's actually held up pretty well.
Yeah. You can see it's kind of jagged. She would use a hand axe to cut down these sheets of down metal.
Margaux light. I actually, I like the way that he's kind of painted this little frame on here, and you've got these little diagonal triangles that he's kind of sectioned off at the edge there. John Coimal Wildman from the 1980s. This is 34 by 16. And more by Mary.
Been trying to figure out what that says.
He Be Me is the title. Okay. Yeah. I have blowed for me. Yeah. I was actually out at the archway under the Manhattan Bridge, and there was a young artist poet named Sam Yablon who makes basically poetry paintings. And I was looking at one of his paintings that I couldn't figure out. I couldn't read that any better than this. But okay, so we got Labla. Okay. Well, we're going to run to the back room and wrap up looking at a couple of pieces that are more sculptural. Hawkins Bolden, Untitled Pants, jeans, stuffed wire, and heavy twine. Do we know what these are stuffed with?
I think it was probably yard trimmings. He was blind when he was young, and then later in life made these as scarecrows to kind of keep watch over his backyard garden. So I think it's probably cut grass, twigs, some kind of organic soft material. You can see they're quite dirty. Probably can't see water himself for quite some time.
And then we've got a piece of sheet metal that's been cut out with a blowtorch.
Yeah, that's Charlie Lucas.
Charlie Lucas. Wild Birds, cut sheet metal, 35 by 32 by 7. And well, actually, that looks like that was part of a car. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
this looks like a fender of
I think so, maybe.
like a Model A or something.
It's another scarecrow by Hawkins Bolden.
Right. Roberta said she really liked this one. So you were saying that Hawkins was totally blind, and he would put this stuff together just by the feel.
Often was scavenging around his neighborhood by touch as well to find his materials.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say this. I touched this piece of,
Okay.
I don't know what that is, naga hide or something.
I
That
think
is
it's
a piece of leather or something. And
some Christmas greenery.
yeah, so I was kind of imagining what it would be like to try to put something together like that. But I think the odd part is that coloristically this works pretty well, and I'm thinking, you know,
which is the weirdest
yeah,
part.
being able to do that when you're blind.
And the holes were considered eyes. He would call these, the strips would usually be called tongues or ears.
That kind of looks like a tongue coming out of a mouth.
Yeah. And the holes are eyes.
All right, thanks, Scott Ogden.
Thanks for coming by.
Down here at Shrine, and what was the title of the show again?
Annex.
Annex.
Yeah, and we're moving. Next show is on East Broadway.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Onward and upward, as they say.
Hopefully.
That's a beautiful snake.
Thank you,
To signal and look at a show titled GDPR Group Display of Paintings and Renderings featuring Sedrick Chisom, Alex Gardner, Haley Josephs, Kristina Lee, Paul Anthony Smith, and Margaux Valengin. Stay tuned. Hello. Well, I try to make it a point of getting out here to Bushwick and bringing you viewers along at least once every 3 or 4 weeks. This looks like an interesting show. Well, always makes it hard for me when I have to come in and cover a group show, especially when they have a kind of unorganized list of pieces, so I'm not exactly sure. But I think this is by Kristina Lee. This is Paul Anthony Smith. Silda, 2011. Acrylic and black glitter on canvas, 65 by 60 inches. I was at a artist discussion panel at the Brooklyn Rail offices Friday night, and they had a little panel of painters talking about other painters. And I think one of the interesting things that came up that people were talking about was the fact that figurative painting has come back into, well, if not back into fashion, at least it's acceptable. And this piece by Paul Anthony kind of shows you some of the kinds of directions that people that are playing with, dealing with figurative art are doing these days. So we've got a little glitter. We got some, it's probably derived from a photograph, I guess. Also, I think, yeah, the installation is kind of nice. This is by Margaux Valengin. Fly on Batter 2018, oil and acrylic on linen. Well, as I was saying, there are a lot of different kinds of registers for figurative work, and a lot of different approaches you can use.
This one's nice because it's on the linen. You get a lot more
texture.
Okay.
Visibility of the brush.
And yeah, so in this way, you're kind of combining certain almost pop art images here. We got the very kind of everyday table accessories, and you've got the kissing figures, and they're kind of being absorbed into some kind of tropical bouquet. This is 40 by 30 inches. Mahata Bowl by Hallie Josephs. This is 72 by 60 inches. Okay. Maybe I'm looking at too many paintings these days, but naked women urinating seems to be a popular subject recently. Must have seen at least 3 or 4 paintings dealing with this theme for a while. Medusa's purification of a Confederate hero. 2018, acrylic on paper. 66 by 60. So this is just an unstretched paper piece. Acrylic and a lot of glaze. This looks like airbrush work. Kind of like the strange amoeba form down there. This is also by Margaux Valengin. It's titled Fire Alarm. 2017, oil and acrylic on canvas, 48 by 36. Well, I like the way that Margaux is not only kind of playing the scale. We've got the big side of the face, and then these dogs. But she's also kind of varying the articulateness of the rendering that she's doing. So parts of this are very kind of fuzzy, kind of out of focus. And then other parts, like these dogs' faces and bodies, are nicely drawn and rendered. Paul Anthony Smith, 2013, oil on canvas, 72 by 60. Well, I like just the basic abstract forms here. You've got this kind of a slashing chevron there, and the green-blue color, and then these masked out forms. Of course, I'm getting a little echo of Kerry James Marshall here. But again, this kind of goes to what I was talking about, the way that people are, in a lot of ways, they're just using figures as an alibi to get in there and smush the paint around. Levelating Phoenix by Haley Josephs, 2017 oil and canvas, 96 by 72. Actually, there are a lot of women walking around in the streets outside that kind of make me think of this lady, the people that are going to the Caribbean Musical Festival. I don't know, there's some ceremony or ritual or festival that they're doing where they're throwing, it looks like they're throwing paint around. This is kind of unusual. So it's, she's got these kind of red forms painted over here, almost as if they were out of register. And I'm thinking, geez, I wonder if you could put on those 3D goggles and somehow get the impression of this as a three-dimensional object. Paul Anthony Smith, untitled, 35 by 23 inches. Well, that could be a landscape, a seascape. Or it could be just formalist abstraction. But it's nice brushwork. It's another piece by Margaux. La Collée, 2018 oil and acrylic on canvas, 80 by 54. Well, Margaux does have a kind of an interesting palette, and I kind of like the fact that she's going into a more earth tone, grayed out, neutral tones than if she would be using some of these high contrast, neon, high intensity colors that some people that are doing this kind of work are doing. Well, that's a pretty accomplished painting, and I like the little gems here in the, is this the princess's sleeve? Sedrick Chisom, the arrival of the last Confederate Falson of the glacial shores of Monumental Valley, 2018 acrylic on paper and canvas, 90 by 88. Well, as I said, a lot of these paintings, you know, you could just pull out a few little elements, like our Confederate beefcake piece, and maybe the boots and the gloves, and you'd have something that would not be that far off from a 1952 Rothko. And Sedrick likes to get in there with a lot of dripping medium and layers of thin, runny paint. Okay, there's a couple of more pieces we'll catch in the back room. More Margaux Venture, acrylic and canvas, acrylic on canvas, 48 by 36. It's by Gardner. At the River, 2018 acrylic on linen, 36 by 27. Well, okay, so I'm sort of picking up one of the themes is that, a lot of these painters are trying to present kind of abstracted, maybe surrealist inspired figuration, but a lot of it is very articulately rendered. And there's a lot of time spent doing the modeling and shading and making sure that your anatomy is correct. I was going to say, these are kind of nice together because they have got echoing palettes. Haley Joseph's The Pool at Bathsheba's, 2018, 20 by 16. Kristina Lee, Queen, oil on canvas, 60 by 36. Okay, so that's kind of a nicely pointillistically rendered image of an alien, one of the grays. Some more Sedrick Chisom. The discombobulation of three alt-right-land Renaissance men on the ice several hours before the wrath of Medusas, 2018. Okay. I guess it's kind of obvious that Sedrick is trying to work out or depict some kind of interesting political intent. I always wonder about working on large pieces of paper like this, even when they're backed on canvas, as opposed to just working on a stretched canvas, unless maybe it's easier to store these if you just roll them up. This piece is 90 by 88 inches. Acrylic on paper on canvas. James Kalm reporting on GDPR, group display of paintings and renderings, and actually the renderings part of this is maybe one of the most uniting and profound parts of the show. Here at Signal, 260 Johnson Avenue, Brooklyn. You can like this, share, subscribe, and you can leave your thoughts, criticisms, critiques, discussion points, suggestions below. And okay, I'm not going to do it, but I am going to ask you to help me thank Kate. Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you.
YUZU?
YUZU.
Thank you, YUZU.